Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be taking a look at Fortina, the newly released unit in Memento Mori. We're going to be comparing Fortina to Fresia since a lot of people are making that comparison, talk about some of the differences, and when or if Fortina is going to be worth pulling for. So let's go ahead and dig in. So the first problem that we're going to run into is that we are running into a translation issue in one of her passives. Now, it is difficult to find the status ailments and what they do on the global version of the game. However, the translation on the Japanese side does lend some understanding of what her passive does. So her primary passive is going to give action inhibition nullify for 2 turns, cannot be removed. This skill activates once every 5 turns, and this activates on herself. Now, action inhibition nullify, I'm guessing, is going to be a resistance to feint, which is the ability that a variety of units have, which can delay a unit's turn or stop a unit's turn for 1 turn. That's what I believe it is. Potentially, it could also work maybe on silence or other abilities that could be considered inhibitions or inhibitating, but we really just don't know yet, and that information isn't kind of widely known yet as far as I can tell. If you do know it, put it down in the comments down below. But this skill gets upgraded at 121 to be activated once every 4 turns, and then the skill targets you and the ally with the highest attack power at level 201. So already, this could be okay. This could be powerful. Would have liked to see this affect the whole party. In comparison, if you look at kind of Fresia's passive ability, it gives all allies 5% less damage taken. At level 121, that becomes 10% and increases the evasion of all allies by 10%. And at 201, it increases to 15% for both. So if I were to look at both of them as passives and kind of compare them as units, they are absolutely different. I think they would be used in different situations. And I actually think it's difficult to compare them right now. Taking a look at the second passive from Fortina, it is going to be called Gift from God. It's going to increase own defense power by 15%, cannot be removed. And you're going to hear me mention this again. Fortina is kind of a selfish unit in terms of her passives. When you get to level 141, this is going to be, in addition, increase own counter rate by 15%. And then at level 221, defense and counter increase by 20% each. So yeah, it's really good. But again, it's very selfish. So when you're thinking about like a support unit, a healing unit, kind of a unit that slides into that role, it's really interesting that people are comparing Fresia and Fortina in these situations, because they really kind of occupy different spaces. Fresia's capability, or her secondary passive, normal attack has a 30% chance to recover her own HP by 10%. The target of HP recovery is yourself and the ally with the lowest HP ratio. And then at 221, HP recovery amount is your attack power times 20%. So it does kind of lean Fresia a little bit more towards the party synergy capability. And for right now, just in terms of passives, I would have to say Fresia probably wins out, unless you need that situation where you do need that action inhibition nullify, which I could totally see depending on the composition that you are going up against in either PvP or PvE. One other important thing here to consider as well is that it's probably going to be harder to max Fortina out than it is to max Fresia out. And Fortina, while she is a light element, it's going to be harder to get light element duplicates, which means it's going to be harder to awaken her. It could just lead to kind of a spiraling of issues here. Now, if we do look at their active abilities, we're going to look at the first active ability, which is their offensive capability. One thing you need to keep in mind is that Fortina is a very attack-based unit, whereas Fresia is a magic-based unit, so there is some difference here. Each of their attack skills are recast every 4 turns. And what we tend to see is that Fortina's attack is kind of her primary healing ability. So it's going to deal physical damage equal to attack times 340% to the enemy with the lowest HP percentage. So no matter what, it's going to attack the lowest HP enemy. This could be useful because there's a lot of times where the lowest HP enemy is still alive, and I'm like, please just die. It's also going to recover the HP of the ally with the lowest HP percentage by 80% of the total damage dealt by this skill. Now, it is important to know that this is dependent on the damage dealt, right? So that's very important. If you're not dealing any damage, if you're inhibited for whatever reason, right? If you're silenced, if you're not able to, deal damage, you're not really going to be able to heal, or if the opponent has a really high defense, right? This does get upgraded again, so the physical attack damage dump becomes a 380% modifier. The HP recovery amount becomes 120% of the damage dealt. So you are going to want to make sure to get at least this first upgrade, because this is going to have a huge impact on her capability to heal. Her secondary ability and then her third ability are more damage oriented, so she unlocks her damage later. So after a physical attack perform a direct attack equal to your own physical strength times 125. Okay, it's just like a small additional attack. Level 3, furthermore, if the skill fails to incapacitate the enemy, reactivate the skill up to 1 reactivation. So this isn't necessarily clear to me whether it activates the whole skill or whether it just activates the level 2 skill. I'm imagining it activates the whole skill, which would mean that Fortina probably is very high end. She's going to be very powerful on the high end, and she's going to need to get to that like level 221 or 200 plus in order to really lean in on this ability. Comparatively, Fresia's ability, Final Tempest, is a magic ability. It is going to do 260% modifier on 3 random enemies. At level 81, it's going to attack the enemy with the lowest HP percentage for the total damage dealt by the skill by 20%. So essentially, you're going to get a lot more damage faster with Fresia. And then at 161, the damage of the first magic attack is equal in power to about 280%. So up until you get to the higher levels, Fresia is going to have a significant higher mod potential than actually Fortina is, and will have a higher mod potential in terms of damage unless the opponent that Fortina is attacking, and keep in mind, Fortina is always going to attack the lowest HP percentage enemy, right? Unless she doesn't kill that enemy, she probably will, because she'll do a follow-up attack, but her damage modification is not going to potentially exceed Fresia's, and Fresia is going to scale up in terms of damage a lot earlier. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a Fresia simp, you guys. This is just me trying to look at the numbers and understand, how these two units are working, interacting, and whether or not I should be pulling them. Taking a look at their active healing, shielding ability. Fortina's ability is going to grant shield and regeneration equal to her own attack power to 120% to all allies for 1 turn. So this is important. I think it's important to realize this is 1 turn only. This is a skill that is recast every 4 turns. You're only getting the shield and the regeneration for 1 turn. So the regeneration at the start of each turn restores HP 7% of maximum HP, which is a pretty high regeneration. But again, if you're only getting it procced once, it's not that great, right? The size of the shield when you get to level 81 becomes your attack power times 150%. Great. I mean, this does grant like a really powerful shield when your enemies could be popping really powerful abilities on you. But is it going to be enough to counteract it? Or if you are in a situation where you need to recover, is it enough to do that, right? Then you have the number of turns for shield and regeneration are 2 turns each at level 161, which is essentially restoring 14% HP every 4 turns, in addition to having a shield lasting potentially 2 turns, which is very powerful, right? So again, you kind of see Fortina's power only really unlocking when you are going to be able to get the UR version of her, and she is going to get that kind of shield and regeneration, as well as that potential follow-up attack for a secondary heal, is kind of where her power is going to lie. On the other side, we have Fresia, which her primary ability recovers the HP of 3 allies with low HP percentage by 250% of her own magic power. Okay. at level, the levels here are wrong on this ability, but the first skill level up, if the target's HP ratio is 15% or less before recovery, the recovery amount is increased by 1.5 times. This is really interesting because this is like a direct modifier heal. Level up 2, if the target's HP ratio is 15% or less before recovery, increase defense by 20%. Keep in mind, this is also, since she does have a damage down buff, passive buff to the entire party, very powerful. And finally, her last ability is not that great. The amount of HP recovered is your magic power times 265. The amount of HP restored was 250% initially. So Fresia is not going to be a high end, like you need to get her high end in order to be exceptionally powerful. She is going to have abilities here that are pretty good. I have heard people say, you know, Fresia is useless unless you can get Kokoro Seed up to potentially 141, right? So until you get her to level 141, and that's possible. I think she still maybe offers a little bit more than Fortina, especially since Fortina only really kind of gives that 2-turn heal followed up by her attack once every 4 turns that'll also heal. So it feels like her healing power is significantly less. It feels like her shielding power, unless you have her leveled, is less, and it feels like her offensive power is less. So what she has going for her is she has a light element, so she is going to synergize into any type of composition, which is really great and powerful. But at the same time, you know, is she going to necessarily replace Fresia? I don't think so. I think you could even run them together if you are running to run like a really powerful support composition. But I don't think Fortina is like the newest best unit ever in the game, particularly at a time where a lot of people should be probably focusing their DPS units more than their support right now. I think, you know, we really could have used another like big DPS rollout is my thoughts currently. So she's a good unit. You can pull for her. You can probably put her in your composition and make her work. I don't think it's necessarily mutually exclusive, Fresia or Fortina, but hopefully this sheds some light. Again, I'm not an expert, guys. I'm still learning this game, still having fun with it. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will catch you guys later.